You were standing on the stone walls of a 13th century Austrian castle, gripping an M1 Garand, staring down at a tree line crawling with heavily armed Waffen-SS troops who absolutely want you dead. But the most terrifying thing right now isn't the 150 elite soldiers marching toward the main gates. It is the man standing right next to you. You are an American GI in May 1945, and the soldier calmly passing you ammunition is a decorated officer of the German Wehrmacht. It is May 5th, and Adolf Hitler blew his own brains out in a bunker 5 days ago. The war in Europe is technically in its dying breath. Berlin has fallen, command structures have dissolved, and millions of troops are throwing down their weapons to go home. But nobody relayed that information to the 17th SS Panzer Grenadier Division currently surrounding your position. They are a fanatical, rogue unit executing anyone flying a white flag. And they have decided their final act of the war will be wiping this castle off the map. You are not dug into a trench, and you are not navigating a bombed-out city. You are trapped inside Castle Itter, an ancient, sprawling alpine fortress perched on a sheer drop, complete with a dry moat, thick stone battlements, and a terrifying lack of escape routes. You arrived at this fortress exactly 1 day ago in a single Sherman tank named Besottin Jenny. You were following a 27-year-old cigar-chomping American tank commander named Captain Jack Lee. Lee's the kind of officer who looks at impossible odds, shrugs, and drives straight into them. You punched your enemy territory to pull off a desperate rescue mission, assuming you would grab the prisoners, load them up, and roll back out. But the bridges behind you are rigged to blow. The Alpine roads are completely cut off, and your tiny rescue squad instantly transformed into a besieged garrison. The people you are risking your life to protect are not military assets, captured spies, or nuclear scientists. They are, without exaggeration, the strangest collection of roommates in human history. The SS requisitioned this medieval castle to hold high-value French prisoners, treating the fortress like a heavily armed, deeply surreal boutique hotel. Down in the courtyard, currently ignoring the very real threat of incoming artillery fire, are 2 former prime ministers of France, Édouard Daladier and Paul Reynaud. These men despise each other. They have spent their entire captivity arguing about who is responsible for the fall of France, carrying grudges so deep they outright refuse to eat at the same table. Joining them in this bizarre captivity is a former French commander-in-chief who actively hates both of the prime ministers, a powerful trade union leader, and Charles de Gaulle's older sister. Oh, and Jean Barotra, a professional tennis star who won Wimbledon and seems entirely unfazed by the apocalypse happening outside his bedroom window. You are a 20-something kid from New York or Ohio, exhausted and covered in grease, and you are currently shouting at elderly European aristocrats to please stay away from the windows because sniper fire is tearing through the 800-year-old plaster. They are completely ignoring you. To the French VIPs, hiding in a cellar is undignified, and they would rather risk a bullet to the chest than look like cowards in front of their political rivals. But the stubborn French aristocracy is not the reason this is the strangest fortress on earth. The reason is the guy on your right, Major Joseph Ganglau. He is a German Wehrmacht officer who realized the war was lost, realized the SS were slaughtering innocent Austrian civilians in the valleys below, and decided he was not going down with a broken regime. He didn't just surrender to the Americans. He drove his vehicle under a white flag straight into your lines, found Captain Lee, and asked for help defending a local village from his own high command. Lee took one look at this seasoned German officer, weighed the absolute insanity of the request, and said, "Let's go." So, here you are. You are part of a defense force consisting of exactly 14 American soldiers, 10 German Wehrmacht soldiers, and an Austrian resistance fighter who helped smuggle the intel out. You are wearing olive drab. The guys covering your blind spot are wearing field gray. Yesterday, you were shooting at each other in the woods. Today, a German soldier is pointing out SS sniper positions in broken English, and you are providing covering fire for a guy wearing an iron cross. You are desperately trying to hold the medieval walls, but the tactical math is violently against you. The SS are moving up the hill with machine guns, Panzerfausts, and a 20mm anti-aircraft gun that is rapidly turning the ancient stonework into lethal shrapnel. Defending a 13th century castle with 20th century weapons is a nightmare. The stone does not absorb bullets. It shatters, sending razor-sharp fragments of rock flying into your face every time a round hits the battlements. Then, cutting through the crack of rifle fire, you hear it. The mechanical, terrifying screech of an 88mm anti-tank gun being dragged into position in the woods. The 88 is the deadliest piece of artillery on the battlefield. It can punch through heavy armor from miles away, and right now, it is pointed directly at the front gate of the fortress. Parked right in that gate is your only heavy weapon, the Sherman tank, the Sotten Jenny. The American crew is buttoned up inside the tank, frantically firing the .30 caliber machine gun into the tree line to keep the SS pinned down. But a machine gun cannot stop an artillery piece. The 88 fires. The sound rips the air in half, and an armor-piercing shell slams directly into the Sherman, tearing completely through the chassis. The tank erupts. The crew barely manages to scramble out of the hatches, coughing and burned, just seconds before the ammunition stores inside cook off, sending a massive plume of thick black smoke into the pristine alpine sky. Your fortress is now entirely blind. You are stripped of your only armor. You have no heavy guns left, and the main gate is essentially blown wide open. The SS recognize the advantage immediately and begin advancing up the hill, moving from tree to tree, preparing to breach the keep. You check your ammunition pouches. You are down to your last few magazines. This is the exact moment the surreal nature of this fortress breaks completely from reality. With the tank gone and the Americans and Germans frantically consolidating their positions, you look over your shoulder and see the 67-year-old former French Prime Minister, Paul Reynaud, wearing a tailored suit, wielding a captured German pistol, and firing directly into the woods. The French VIPs have raided the castle's armory. The elderly politicians who were viciously arguing about pre-war economic policy over breakfast are now crouched behind stone crenellations, laying down suppressing fire alongside American teenagers and German veterans. Even the tennis star Boritra is tossing grenades over the walls. You scream at them to get back inside. Captain Lee threatens to have them physically dragged into the vault. It is completely useless. You are trapped in a nightmare where European high society has decided to participate in a suicidal gunfight, and they are actually holding their own. But bravery doesn't manufacture bullets. The SS are getting closer to the walls, and the volume of incoming fire is deafening. The telephone lines to the valley were cut hours ago by enemy patrols, and your radio is completely dead. If you do not get heavily armed reinforcements in the next few hours, the SS will swarm the keep. They have already made it perfectly clear they intend to execute every single person inside to leave no witnesses behind. You need someone to run. Someone has to slip through the enemy lines, navigate the dense, unfamiliar Austrian forest, and find the American 142nd Infantry Regiment, which you can only hope is somewhere in the valley miles away. You are looking around at your ragged, exhausted American and German defenders, calculating who is going to make this suicide run. Jan Boritra steps forward, the Wimbledon champion. He is wearing civilian clothes, which means if he is caught by the SS, he will not be treated as a prisoner of war. He will be shot immediately as a spy. He doesn't care. He maps out the terrain in his head, stretches like he is preparing for a match, and asks Captain Lee for permission to jump the wall. You watch this athletic, aging Frenchman vault over the 13th century stone, land hard in the dirt, and completely disappear into the tree line, sprinting right through the middle of an active SS staging area. You have no idea if he is alive or dead. All you can do is go back to the wall, shoulder your rifle, and keep pulling the trigger. For hours, you hold the line. Major Gangl, the German officer who brought you into this madness, is running tirelessly between positions, keeping his men steady, translating Lee's orders, and making sure the Americans have covering fire. The defense is flawless, but the space is too tight. You watch Gangl spot one of the French politicians wandering just a little too close to the line of fire. Without hesitating, Gangl dives forward, physically pushing the former prime minister out of the way just as an SS sniper pulls the trigger. Gangl takes the bullet directly to the head. He collapses onto the cobblestones of the fortress, dying instantly. The man who was your sworn enemy just 3 days ago, a man wearing the uniform of the Third Reich, just gave his life to save a French prisoner while fighting under the direct command of an American captain. The reality of where you are and what is happening is entirely detached from anything military command ever prepared you for. There are no training manuals for this. There is no protocol for mourning a German officer while a French tennis player tries to run a marathon through Nazi lines to save a stranded Sherman tank crew. The afternoon sun is starting to dip below the alpine peaks, casting long, dark shadows across the courtyard. The SS are forming up in the woods for a final, massive assault on the main gate. You are down to your last clips of ammunition. You fix your bayonet to the end of your M1 Garand, listening to the metallic click lock into place, because you know the fighting is about to end up in the narrow, bloody hallways of the castle itself. And then, echoing up the valley, bouncing off the sheer rock faces of the Alps, you hear a sound that makes the hairs on your arms stand up. It is the heavy, grinding, unmistakable diesel roar of American tanks. The 142nd Infantry is here. Borotra made it. He ran the gauntlet, found the Americans, and guided them back up the mountain. Heavy machine gun fire erupts from the road below as the armored column tears into the rear of the SS positions. The fanaticism of the 17th SS shatters instantly against the reality of a massive, heavily armed relief force. They break contact, scattering deep into the woods, abandoning the siege. You lower your rifle. Your hands are shaking. You look at the smoldering, blackened wreck of your tank in the gateway. You look at the exhausted German soldiers sitting against the stone walls, lighting cigarettes and staring at the sky. You watch the French politicians casually dust off their coats entirely unbothered, as if they had just finished a particularly loud afternoon hunt. History books will always try to package this war into neat, clean lines. They will draw maps with red and blue arrows, defining good and evil. Us versus them, nations fighting nations in perfect ideological clarity. But standing in the smoke of the strangest fortress of the 20th century, you understand the actual truth of combat. When the world completely fractures, when the rules vanish and the end of the line is staring you dead in the face, the uniform a man wears doesn't mean a thing. Survival just depends on who is willing to stand on the wall beside you when the firing starts.